Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to the weekly edition of Daily News Simplify, where we take up the week-long article from the Indian Express Explained section as well as the Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper. Articles which are taken up for today's discussion are listed on your screen, and the timestamping for these articles is already mentioned in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. This article appeared in the Indian Express Explained section on 26th of April and talks about a recent PIL which was fined in Bombay High Court with respect to the violation of 91st Amendment to the Indian Constitution, where the government of Goa decided to bring a separate position in its government, that is the position of permanent cabinet rank given to the old people or the veterans of the Goan politics. Now, from the perspective of the prelims as well as the mains examination, this article is extremely important. Why? In the mains examination, it is important for your general studies paper 2 with respect to the state legislation and the governance. In the prelim examination, important articles and their amendments could directly be asked by the UPSC. Now, through this single slide, let us look into what the actual motive is. A PIL which was filed in the Bombay High Court with its branch in Goa challenged the lifetime cabinet status which was given to the Pratap Singh Rane in Goa. Now, Pratap Singh Rane has remained the Goa's chief minister. He has also remained an important legislator for more than 50 years. And that is the reason why government was trying to give Pratap Singh Rane a tag, a position of lifetime cabinet status. As of now, no state, not even the union government, has similar provision ever given to any person. Now, why government of Goa has decided to give this? It will come with two important benefits. The cabinet rank to this person will remain till the death of the person. So this person, whether he or she functions with the state government or not, that person will always be called as a cabinet member. There is no need to contest the election in order to become the cabinet member. So even after the retirement from the politics, that person will always be tagged as a member of the cabinet to the Goa government. These were the two benefits which are going to be incurred to the Pratap Singh Rane. Now, why a petition was filed? The first one is that there is no such provision mentioned anywhere in the constitution in this respect. The second reason being, it is more a political move taken by the ruling government to please the popular leader in the state government. This might be retaliated in the other state and will put a wrong precedence. Third reason would be that there would be high burden on the state finances with respect to these ministers. For instance, the accommodation, energy fund, including the fuel charges, electricity bill, phone charges, salary, travel, security and whatnot. The fourth reason being that no financial approval from the finance department was taken in this regard before implementing this rule. Now, what does the constitution say in this regard? The constitution under article 164, clause 1A, which was amended in 2003 through the Amendment Act 91, which was also the highlight of this important article. Now, this amendment and this article says total strength of Council of Ministers, including the Chief Minister, should not exceed the 50% of the total strength of the Assembly of a particular state. It simply means that if there are 100 MLAs, the maximum number of Council of Ministers, including the Chief Minister, would be 15 and not more than that. However, there are certain exemptions given to the smaller state, which also include Goa's case. In Goa case, there are 40 assembly seats. By the rule of 15%, the maximum seats that should be given to the Council of Ministers should be 6. However, this is not the case. In the current Goa Assembly, there are 12 people who are acting as a member of Council of Ministers, which is higher or 2 times or 30% to what the Constitution amendment has to say. Now, Constitution has already provided that in the case of Goa and many other states, the number of Council of Ministers cannot be less than 12. So as far as number of Council of Ministers are 12, including the cabinet, it is not a violation of the constitution. But the petition says that as it is not mentioned in any provision of the constitution, providing a separate rank to a person who has already retired from the politics will increase the total number of ministers to 13. 13 means violation of the 12 limit mentioned in the constitution. The 13 will later might be increased in the future because there might be some other people in the politics in the future or maybe in the other state which might retaliate to provide certain benefits. And this will create a dynamo effect. More number of people without working with the government will enjoy such kind of benefit, and this would go against the basic democratic principle where the representatives or the political representatives should be accountable to the people for the work they do. In this case, people who will get the cabinet rank will not do anything to the public. They will just sit back at the home and will get salaries, allowances, and whatever benefit a cabinet minister has to offer. That is the reason why it will set a wrong precedence across the country, and this is the possible reason why a petition was filed. Now, what should be the way forward? If the ruling government want to provide, want to honor, want to respect their veteran politician, so instead of providing them the same cabinet status, they can provide them certain benefit, that too from the legalized manner of the finance department, and if possible from the funds which are generated by the respective political parties and not the fund which is paid by the pockets of the income taxpayers. With this discussion placed, now I will leave you with this important question to practice. This is a very important point and could be possibly asked in the upcoming prelim examination, so prepare this very thoroughly. So read this question carefully and try to answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared in the Indian Express Explained section on 26th of April. An article talks about the power of the states with that of the center with respect to the selection of vice chancellor in the state universities, the rules, and what causes the friction between the two. So what happened recently was that the Tamil Nadu has passed two important bills which has taken away the power of the governor to appoint the vice chancellor of the state universities inside the state. Previously, it was the vice chancellor who has appointed these members. So from the perspective of the UPSC, this article is important for your prelims as well as mains examination. In the mains examination, it is important under the constitutional bodies with respect to the power of governor. In the prelim examination, it is important as articles and schedule are part of this news discussion. Now, Tamil Nadu Assembly has passed some bills which will restrict or change the power of the governor in order to appoint the vice chancellor. So let us look into some of the different aspects which were highlighted in the article and understand the issue in macro stage. Now, what is the current issue? Now, the government of Tamil Nadu has decided to shift the appointing power of the governor to the state government. This means that now the appointment of the vice chancellor is concerned, it will be based on the power of the state. Now, why Tamil Nadu government has done this? Well, the government has certain complaints about the functioning of the governor. They say that governor has never consulted the state government, not even the bureaucracy, not even the education minister, before appointing the vice chancellor to the state universities. Previously, the same issue was raised by even Maharashtra, West Bengal, Odisha, and even the states like Rajasthan. Now, what the bill has to say? The bill has to say that the state government will have power to appoint the vice chancellor to the state universities, which means the government universities inside the state which are getting funds from the government. They will select the vice chancellor from the panel which will have 3 names. These 3 names will be given by a search and the selection committee. So basically, search and the selection committee will give 3 names. That 3 names will form a panel. That panel will be recommended to the state government to appoint one vice chancellor for the specific university. As far as removal is concerned, the bill says the process of the removal will only be conducted by the state government, and this will be based on the inquiry which is being conducted by a retired high court judge of the state or a civil servant or a bureaucrat with a rank of chief secretary to the government of the state. That is, if a person is to be taken for the removal process, that person will be subjected to the inquiry conducted by a judge that is the retired High Court judge, or the same inquiry can also be conducted by the rank of a chief secretary to the state government. You must be aware that the chief secretary to the state government is an IAS officer of highest rank in the state bureaucracy. Now, what is the current position? As of now, government, who also act as a chancellor to the state universities, has a power to appoint a person as the vice chancellor from the listed name which are offered to the governor. Most of the state in the country have the similar procedure, while there are certain states which have problem with this. Supreme Court in the past has said that if any state government try to go against the provisions and the regulations set up by the University Grant Commission, that is UGC, will be subjected to the quo warranto. Quo warranto is a writ, and this writ may be used by the judiciary to ask a person that by what authority that person is enjoying the public office. The second point which was mentioned by the Supreme Court previously says that in case of conflict between the rules subjected to any issue at the federation level, so a law of the center would prevail over the law of the state government. Now, if center creates a law, and this law is based on the University Grant Commission Act, under which a regulation is created which allow the governor as a chancellor to appoint the vice chancellor. So from that perspective, the current initiative taken by the Tamil Nadu would be held null and void. On the other hand, we have instances from the other states as well. For instance, the states like Rajasthan, where the concurrence between the state and the governor together would decide the appointment of the vice chancellor. So it seems more like a win-win situation. Kerala and Odisha has gone against the governor's choice for the vice chancellor appointment. In the Gujarat, the state is deciding on the appointment of vice chancellor and not the governor from the listed candidate. So more or less we have found out that number of states across India have different provisions when it comes to the appointment of vice chancellor to a particular state university. Now what UGC has to say on this? First of all, whatever power UGC has derived comes from the education, and education is mentioned in the concurrent list where both state and the central government can create legislation. However, there are certain issues with respect to the entry 66 of the 7th schedule concurrent list. And what does it entry says? The 66th entry says that union has more power with respect to the standards in the higher education institutions. So whenever the point comes with respect to the setting standards in the higher education, it is the power of the union and not the state. So what union government can do? Union government through the UGC Act can direct the Tamil Nadu government to take away the bill which it has passed, or it can bring a universal law which is applicable to each and every state. Through that, it will remove the ambiguities and the complexities which are involved as far as appointment of vice chancellor is concerned. The regulation under the UGC Act also says that those institutions which are getting funds from the UGC must only allow the governor to appoint vice chancellor, and in this case state government cannot do that. So if Tamil Nadu government wants to bring any kind of bill where government of Tamil Nadu want to appoint the vice chancellor, the best thing which they can do is to appoint vice chancellor only in those universities which are not getting fund from the union government or from the UGC. If the university is funded completely by the state government, they might take a chance to go against the union law. However, as Supreme Court has said, the law of the union will always prevail over the law of the state. Now what will happen in the future? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, I'll leave you with this question to practice in this regard. So read this question carefully and try to answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on the Indian Express Explained section on the date of 30th April, that is yesterday. The article talks about the ban which was recently imposed in United States on menthol cigarettes and how this ban, if implemented in India, can help the Indian government to control the addiction of smoking. Now, from the prelims examination, it is important for the student to understand how the menthol cigarettes are created and how they actually functions. What are their negative impacts on the society and how this can be controlled. So from that perspective, we will analyze this article. Now, US has banned the use of menthol cigarettes in its market. Now, why this was banned? For two reasons. First, there are a number of smokers who have increased drastically in America, especially in the young age. The second reason, which is based on the research conducted by a private organization in the country, shows that the black population, that is Afro American, this is the population which is becoming more addictive to the smoking of menthol cigarettes. Both these regions have forced or compelled the US government to ban the use of menthol cigarettes in the market. Now, the point is, from the prelims perspective, it is important for the student to know what is menthol cigarette. Now, menthol cigarette is created by adding the distilled corn mint or simply the mint inside the tobacco ingredient of a cigarette. Now, why this has become popular? It has become popular because it has delayed the extensive addiction of the normal or the regular cigarette. It does not leave behind the foul smell to the smoker, and it also reduces the irritation in the smoker, especially in the windpipe. However, it also comes with certain cons or negative impact. The first one being that the impact of nicotine remains the same. There is no change or fall in the nicotine consumption. The second one being it is responsible for causing the respiratory diseases to the people, even leading towards the cancer of lungs. And the third point, which is also the reason why United States has banned this cigarette, is it is being adopted highly and more numbers by the young people. One of the report published in the US has also supported that even the students of school that is younger than 16 years of age or even sometimes 17 years of age are seen more addictive towards this menthol cigarettes. So, should India also ban these kind of cigarette? Now, these kind of cigarettes are openly sold over the counter in Indian markets as well. So, should India ban these cigarettes? Well, there are both good and not so good points behind it. If India bans, it will control the further attraction of youth population towards smoking. It will also replicate the Canadian model where it was banned, and this ban actually led to 10% fall in the overall smokers in the country. It will also restrict on the point that more choices means more addiction. When more choices are available in the market, people become more addictive towards a particular intoxicant. And that is the reason why when menthol cigarettes were rolled out in India, there was a jump in the consumption or smoking across the country. So that assumption of more choices means more addiction will be defeated. Now the point is why it is not so good. Why a ban is not so good as an idea. The first one being there is no official estimate available as far as menthol smoking in India is concerned. The second one would be that smoker would definitely shift to the regular smoking if they are denied to smoke the menthol cigarette. The third one being e-cigarette case, where few years back central government came up with a ban on e-cigarette. However, still there are a number of users who are using the e-cigarettes in the black market both for sale and consumption. So if government ban the menthol cigarette, it might replicate what has happened in the case of e-cigarette. Now the point is what government should do. First of all, it can start with initial ban on the e-cigarette and also a warning sign. It can also look out for the help from social media as well as the advertising world in order to curb this practice. And lastly would be the awareness to the users. Extensive use of legal measures might come with a retaliation action, so that should be avoided or that could be limited to a very small use. More should be on the promotional measures rather than the restricted approach. With this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article was published in the Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper today, and it was published on page 5, and the article talks about the extended dry spell that has caused the wildfire across Himachal Pradesh. Not only that, it is more likely to cause fire in Uttarakhand, Nepal, and even some of the northeastern states. The prolonged dry spell has coupled with unusual high temperature in the recent days, which is likely to continue in the next 2 months as well. So that will cause the incidences of Himalayan fire, especially in the state of Himachal Pradesh. that will ultimately cause the destroying or the destruction of large number of forest cover in the state and even other state. The early onset of summer, that is even in the middle of April this year, has challenged the state government effort to control the forest fire across the state. Now, from the perspective of the UPSC, it is important in the prelim examination to know about the forest fires, map of forest fire in the country, and some of the reasons for the forest fire. In mains examination, it is important in your general studies paper 1 where geography related questions are asked, and in your general studies paper 3 where disaster management related questions are asked. So today we will read about the important facts related knowledge with respect to the forest fire. India between April 1st to 14 last year has registered over 82,000 forest fires, which is a very high number. It is almost double with respect to what happened in 2020. So within 1 year, the forest fire has increased or doubled. This data was given by the Global Forest Watch, which is an open monitoring application. Warmer weather in India, one of the reasons would be the climate change has caused the collection of wood, leaves and inflammable material in the forest, ultimately leading to the small ignitions and spreading thereon. The forest fires are not all unnatural. Some of the forest fires are even useful and which requires the replenishment and development or even regeneration of the forest. It is a natural process and it should happen. Such small fires will definitely free or will remove the unwanted buildup of litter and thereby reduce the chance for catastrophic forest fire. So removal of the small litter with small fires will avoid the further expansion of the large fires. It will also help in the development of silviculture, that is forest development for the timber use. It will also increase the forage. It will also provide better habitat opportunities to the wildlife. So more or less small forest fire which occurs naturally are not bad. Then what is the bad situation? Before going into the major causes, let us look into the distribution of forest fire in the country. The highest number of forest fires are found in the foothills of Himalaya, especially in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Nepal, and some of the areas of even Jammu Kashmir. There are other areas where forest fires are found and they are present in the central part of the country in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. The areas or the forest in the Western Ghat are less prone to the fire. Now, why this kind of difference is there? The first reason being the precipitation. The high degree of precipitation provides the good amount of moisture to the Western Ghat vis-a-vis the Himalayan region. This high moisture reduces the chance of forest fire. The second reason being the canopy. Western Ghats have very dense canopy. Dense canopy means lower temperature. So the direct sunlight does not penetrate within the soil. The leaves on the ground remains less, and whenever they are available on the ground, they are not completely dry. The third reason being the type of forest. So in the Western Ghats, we have evergreen forest, and that too with a very dense canopy. So evergreen nature, high moisture and dense canopy provide limited scope for fire in the Western Ghat. Now what are the reasons for this? As far as natural reasons are concerned, that is the reasons which are not in control or not being created by the humans. It includes the environmental lightning, frictions of the rolling stones, rubbing of the dry bamboo clumps and even the volcanic eruption. The first three are mostly found in North India. Volcanic explosion is normally seen in Andaman and Nicobar. As far as anthropogenic reasons are concerned, which are increasing day by day, there are two types. First being the deliberate, conducted on the wish, and the second one is the accidental. The deliberate reasons include the shifting cultivation from one area to the another, flushed growth of the tendu leaves which are more prone to fire, good growth of grass and fodder. So more grass, more fodder means more subjection of fire. High tall trees are less subjected to fire. To settle score with forest department, or even to go through the personal rivalries between two people. Like one person have rivalry with the other, so they will just set fire in the other's territory. Sometimes it becomes out of control. To clear the path for the villagers for their movement, to encroach upon the forest land. This is a very high and illegal activity. Concealing the illicit felling, and also the tribal traditions and customs such as jhum cultivation. As far as accidental causes are concerned, so they include the collection of the non-timber forest produce, burning farm residues, driving away the wild animals. So people utilize this fire to keep the animals or wild animals away from their habitation. Throwing the burning BDs, cigarette and others, so they might also trigger the fire. Campfire by the picnickers, especially in the Himalayan area, which is known for the tourism. Spark from the vehicle exhaust. Spark from the transformers, that is the part of electricity distribution. Controlled prescribed burning as well as resin tapping. So as you can see, there are over 20 reasons to create fires. No wonder we already have registered over 80,000 of forest fire last year. And this year, as the summers are becoming more extreme, Indian Forest Department should be ready to cope with more number of forest fires. Now, what do we lose with the forest fire? The first one is the biodiversity change. The forest fires might change the biodiversity species allocation of a particular place. It will reduce the soil moisture because higher temperature would reduce the moisture that is required to retain a particular crop or a particular forest trees. It will reduce the water infiltration down the soil, so that will ultimately lead towards the lower habitation in the future. It will enhance the global warming because it will release many harmful gases: carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, methane, nitric oxide, nitrous oxide and many others. It will also cause a microclimatic change, as once the forest is set to fire, it will lose the trees, it will lose the grass, shrubs and others. That particular area will be subjected to more insulation from the sun. It will be subjected to more increase in the temperature. So small warm areas or small heat islands will be created in the forest of the Himalayas. It will also lead to the soil erosion because the moment we lose the diversity of flora in the Himalayan area or the hilly areas, that soil will lose the strength and it will be subjected to the soil erosion down the slope. And ultimately it will also lead to the flooding. More soil erosion will ultimately lead to more flooding because the water which is draining down the slope will not be controlled by the roots of the trees. No trees means the water will flow in a humongous speed that will ultimately be collected in the down valleys, and that will ultimately lead towards the flooding of the Himalayan regions as well as the plains of the northern India. Now the point is, what should we do? The source of ignition of fire should be separated. Every source of fire should be under watch and control. Perpetrators of fire should be brought to justice. Combustible and inflammable material should not be allowed inside or around the forest areas. Safe practices should be adopted with respect to factories, coal mines, oil stores and others, and even the people who are living in those areas should be provided the capacity building to fight the fires. Fire reducing and firefighting techniques should be incorporated to the village and the Gram Sabha level. In 2004, Forest Survey of India has developed the Forest Fire Alert System in order to provide the real-time information on forest fire. The moment this alert comes into existence, it will provide the emergency situation. The Forest Department will be equipped in a sudden mode to act against the fire and stop it from being spread. We also have the advanced version of this alert system launched in 2019, where we are using the satellite images of NASA and ISRO together. We also have National Action Plan on Forest Fire adopted in 2018, as well as the Forest Fire Prevention and Management Scheme. All these three are utilized in order to provide the mitigation effort on forest fires in India. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared in the frequently asked questions and talks about why electric vehicles are catching fire across India. Now you must be going through the newspaper headlines where you must be reading that electric vehicles across India are catching fire suddenly, and specifically the electric scooters which are sold in India. Now the article talks about why such electric vehicles are catching fire, why such fires are being registered, and how we can use the technology in order to restrict these fire accidents in the future. This article is important from your General Studies paper 3 under Science and Technology. As well as in the prelim examination, there are very high chances that this year UPSC might ask a question on either lithium ion batteries because they are in the news for various reasons, or they may also ask a question on the electric vehicle and their functioning. From that perspective of current affairs, science and technology, this article becomes extremely important. Now let us understand why electric vehicles are catching fire. But before that, we should know why electric vehicles are becoming more popular. The first and the most promising reason being that the technology related to the electric vehicle is now becoming much cheaper. More interest has been shown by the MNCs, that is multinational companies, including the Ola in India. Government incentive has also increased, so government is providing more incentives, capital subsidies to those companies which are producing the electric vehicles. Recently, because of this catching fire, government has constituted a dedicated committee to look into the matter and recommend certain suggestions and solutions for this problem. Now, why a fire broke out in an electric vehicle? The first reason being the compact battery design. Most of the designs in the electric vehicles are so compact, the battery components are created in such a manner that is the separator, the object which separate the cathode to the anode, are so thin that their entire width is 1/4 of a human hair. Such a small separator inside the body, that too in a compact design, are subjected to the sudden breakdown. Then we have the basic reason for the fire, which is the combination of fuel, oxygen and heat. Now oxygen is an external matter, so whenever an accident takes place or any object come in contact with the battery and it is subjected to breakdown, it reacts with the oxygen available outside. Heat is generated due to the short circuit which occurs inside the body of a battery. As far as fuel is concerned, it is the liquid electrolyte which is supplied inside the battery. So a combination of heat, fuel, that is the electrolyte, as well as the presence of oxygen causes a sudden generation of fire inside the battery that might even engulf the entire electric vehicle. The internal reasons for that being the shortening of the electrode, manufacturing defects and even the short circuits. The external reason for the fire might be the excessive pressure applied on the battery, accidental crash or even the overcharging or discharging or extreme discharging of the battery. All these reasons combine together to generate fire in the lithium ion battery of electric vehicles. Now how it can be prevented? The first is to prevent the fire triangle. Now what is fire triangle? Fire triangle is the fuel, oxygen and heat. This step should target towards not supplying the oxygen inside the battery, or to stabilize the fuel distribution, or to restrict the generation of heat. The first initiative which is recently taken is the provision of ceramic separator. The separator between cathode and anode should be created through the ceramic wall. This will make it more tensile and will be able to capture the extreme pressure. The second one would be the solid electrolyte. As of now, as liquid electrolyte is used, it is more prone to spillover or more prone to break down the separator easily. That creates the chances of accident. Robust thermal management is required to avoid the generation of extreme heat. We need to require to protect the external penetration of pressure on the battery components. We need to monitor the defective product even at the manufacturing stage itself. Internal switches are being developed by different research and development institutions, and these switches are turned on whenever there is extreme heat which is being generated. For instance, if a person is charging the battery, that battery, if generate extreme heat, the internal switches will keep off the supply of power to the battery. It simply means the battery will not charge any further. And lastly, we should also go for strict certification courses when it comes to the generation of battery, utilization, maintenance and even servicing of these batteries associated with the electric vehicles. Now let us understand this through an infograph also. So basically there are three reasons which are cited in the article. The first one being the crash. When crash occurs, the penetration, there is the breakdown of the battery system. It causes mechanical abuse of the battery. There is deformation of the battery, that is, battery may bend, it may break down, and it will cause the separation tearing. Once the separation between cathode and anode is teared down, it will cause the short circuiting, thermal generation, and the fire. The second reason mentioned in the article are the internal reason, which might be the overcharging or the less charging. It is also known as the electric abuse. There will be a dendrite growth inside the battery and it will pierce down the separator. The third one is the overheating, which will cause the thermal abuse. This will generate high temperature that will collapse the separator, more or the less. It is the last stage which is associated with respect to the separator, and we already discussed separator is a thin layer which separate the anode with the cathode. So once the separator is destroyed, whatever may be the reason, there will be an internal short circuit that will lead to the higher temperature, and ultimately in the presence of oxygen we will go through the explosion and fire will occur. So in order to restrict that, we have already discussed the pointers that are highlighted over here. So you should go through all these important points in order to understand how this entire process is functioning. This is very likely to be asked in the upcoming prelim examination, so prepare it thoroughly. The answer to yesterday's question was option C, that is, which of the following ensure the judicial independence in India? The answer would be the mode of appointment of the judges and the removal of the judges. Unified judiciary is not part of the independence of judicial system in India. So the answer was option C. Today's question is on your right side. So read the question carefully. It says, consider the following statement. The first statement says that lithium-ion battery can function only in the liquid electrolyte. The second statement says in majority of lithium-ion fire cases, separator remain the major cause. So read it carefully and try to find out the right answer from the given option. With this discussion, please, now we come to the end of today's Daily News Simplify. Thank you.